As it's progressed, one identity that stuck out a lot is that of the trickster. This identity has really been capitulated around the idea that the witch is somehow mischievous, somehow off in the woods or in the cave or off in her hut or where have you, plotting your demise and cackling, over the little cauldron and coming up with some way to curse you or ruin your life. And, in 1600s especially, I think we're all aware of the kind of mythos or urban legend of the witch cursing the crops, the cattle, and whatnot, of course. And really, the origin of this, the creation of this characterization of the witch, really starts with a terrible marketing campaign from those going against the witch. What I mean by this is the witch in those time frames, even going back further, was really a character, an actor in society who was willing to provide insight, wisdom about the earth, or healing, or how to better one's circumstance, or go against the authority that be, right? Those times we're talking about kings, queens, monarchs, and even early dictators, right? Emperors, of course, but you had these sorcerers, these wise ones who lived off at the edge of society, and the members of that society and culture knew what it meant to seek them out. They understood that it came with some kind of cost or offering to them and what they regard as important. But in exchange, they would give them some kind of power that often made the individual independent of the society around them, giving them a leg up or a leverage or privilege. And as other kind of mainstream westernized religions, those of the Abrahamic faith especially, the Catholic Church, Christianity, they really started to pick up on this idea of collectivism, right? Recruiting and gaining numbers for the masses. And one thing that was very different, where the witch would come out and sort of teach you or guide you through the practice of ritual or offering or sacrifice or journey, right? The church really was big on specialists. They wanted the individual to come to the church for the same services of engaging with the immaterial world. They had the incense as well. They had the ceremonies as well. They had the exorcism and banishments and healings and all these sacred rites as well, just as the witch was sort of demonized for having in the first place. So this idea that the witch is a trickster really comes from, again, that marketing campaign of, hey, we're the church, we're the mainstream religion, we're gaining steam, let's really assassinate our competition. And the witch, again, the wise one, the healer, what have you, falling into that variety, really was out to give people a sense of personal power, where the church aligned with government and authorities of the time, such as monarchies and, republics like in Rome and whatnot, or even here in America, of course, where we see this sort of deep connection between religious bodies that are highly popular and in control with governments that are highly in control and extremely influential or try to be in a pop culture sense. And between the two of them, they really want you to come to them for the services, such that it sort of keeps you out of the loop of understanding the spiritual power that an individual can have. So the church and those who, work alongside it are really trying to cultivate that power within the church as opposed to the individual level, which the witch, the shaman, the chieftain, the medicine man, the wise one, the healer, the herbalist, all of these characters of the witchcraft genre wanted you to have back, wanted you to have that personal power for yourself, such that you could better yourself or your circumstances. Another characterization of the witch that I really want to talk about is that of the Satanist, which we really see come out, of course, in that puritanical period, that of the witch hunt, that of 1600s, where the Catholic Church is really heavy in arms with England, and Christianity is going through this Reformation, also gaining a new sort of movement in itself. We really see this, again, this new sort of characterization of the witch, where they're not just pagans or heretics, as of the perspective of the priest or of the church, really, but they're also Satanists. They're hand in hand with the devil. They work alongside demons and the infernal sort of energies of life. And they're out to coerce you to also work along that energy. which is extremely important when you think about the individual sort of on this journey themselves, coming up against these two sort of campaign strategies. The witch, the healer, the wise one saying, hey, learn for yourself this power. And that's very indicative of those trickster beings that we see in Christian mythos, right? That of Satan himself, the serpent, where we really see them trying to coerce in themselves to really break humanity of its own power, sort of in spite of humanity. And so these two ideas really get linked together for the sake of once again, collectivism. But there's another side to this too, which is very important to talk about, which is that of the occultists or even the extremists in counterculture times, that of 1950s, 60s, and onward. A good example of this is Richard Ramirez, the serial killer who went on a sort of rampage, murdering multiple women, and professed upon capture, after eluding the police once, but after being captured, professed that it was Satan himself that ordained him with the ability, the capacity to commit such terrible deeds in the first place. And I, of course, see this as a terrible, very gruesome story, and I apologize for just dropping that on you, and I should have given you a bit of a preface, but the point of that being, and the reason I share that, is because this idea of people like Richard Ramirez or even Marilyn Manson, where they've mixed the Charles Manson, excuse me, not Marilyn Manson. When we see these people blending, religious extremism with societal extremism, they really do come forth as being this stigma that says, hey, back away from that, be weary of that, be cautious of that, naturally, right? In a sort of survival instinct sort of way. The problem is extremists on the other end, people who are extremists in demonizing cultures that are outside the norm, have used that narrative to also demonize other cultures and put them in that same category. And so people like myself, who are a practitioner of witchcraft and paganism, would be demonized as someone who's in that same genre of terrible, awful human beings. And so it's important to really understand the background narrative, I think, surrounding some of these characterizations of the witch throughout time and society, and what's really been historically denoted as a problem in the community, right? People of alternative faiths, such as myself or others who really seek a commitment to making society better, have a hard time getting over this barrier of the perception and the public image problem that's out there for witches and even Buddhists and even Hinduists and even, of course, Islamists, right? Muslims who try to just align with the society around them and enhance it in some way. And so